Bitcoin, we got to talk about this for a hot second here. The halving taking place on Friday, the phenomenon happening roughly every 4 years, of course, the 210,000 blocks that need to be created here. I got to know, from your perspective, how much more of a tailwind that provides to some of the Bitcoin pricing now and how you're evaluating it.
Yeah, so classically, whenever you have new supply constrained, right, and demand stays constant, you get higher prices.
Right.
So, Bitcoin's an incredibly cyclical asset. We'd expect more upside. The cautionary note, though, is it's unclear to everyone how much of that upside is already priced in, because you had the ETF flows, the approval, the surge, and you already made new highs prior to the halving, which had never been done before. So from our perspective, we do expect further upside. However, you have to be cautious with volatility. Again, remember that term, uncomfortable levels of risk. If you can't tolerate a 10, 15, 20% drawdown, you probably shouldn't be invested in the first place. But I would be surprised if we're not at 50 to 100% over the next year.
When you talk about then that catalyst going forward, what is it going to be in order to get to those all-time highs?
So I think it's very dependent on whether ETF flows continue to be positive. Mm-hmm. Since ETF approval, it's almost been a perfect correlation. When there's flows coming in and the Wall Street marketing machine can attract new capital, Bitcoin goes up. When there's outflows, it corrects or goes the other way. So, it's very difficult to predict that, but you would think as there's more and more adoption, there will at least be enough flows to absorb new supply, and then some, which will drive price higher.
And then additionally here, when we think about some of the other ETFs that could potentially be listed this year, do you think that there's any perhaps large difference in the number of people who are willing to flow into Bitcoin or continue to flow into Bitcoin versus the ETFs that have been put forward, like Ethereum or some of the other altcoins?
Yeah, I think Bitcoin's very different because it's really got institutionalized last cycle, meaning there was always the ability to attract capital away from, let's call it, the crypto community. Mm-hmm. I think when you're talking about other cryptos, for instance, Ethereum, there's a lot of debate over whether Solana is going to eat their lunch or not. You have very disappointing performance so far in this cycle. And I just don't see the same degree of institutional adoption like you have with Bitcoin. Because ultimately, Bitcoin, it's hard money. It's an inflation hedge. It's a government profligacy hedge that more and more institutions are adopting.
Troy, great to see you in person.
Great to be here as well.
Thanks for coming in studio. Troy Gayeski, who is the FS Investments Chief Market Strategist. And a programming note that also involves Troy. Yahoo Finance launched our brand new podcast, The Opening Bid, this morning, bright and early, 8 a.m. Troy Gayeski joined our executive editor, Brian Sozzi, and talked all things markets and tech. Catch Opening Bid with Brian Sozzi every Monday and Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern.